TIL, a very frugal librarian, the late Robert Morin, left millions of his life savings to the University of New Hampshire where he worked as a librarian. Then the university spent $1 million of that money on a scoreboard for a new football stadium. From source: news that late librarian Robert Morin left the University of New Hampshire. $4 million has been hailed as a symbol of Morin's dedication and generosity. But the school's decision to spend $1 million of that money on a new video scoreboard for the football stadium is being criticized. A life lived in frugality, spent frivolously on $1 million scoreboard, one commenter wrote on a local newspaper site, calling the decision an assault on Morin's life. Others say it's simply a shame that more of the money didn't go to the university's Diamond Library, where Morin spent much of his life. NPR.org. Thanks for the cash, nerd. Uni, geez, thanks for that. Rips off the name tag from the gift. This is why I don't donate a dime to my alma mater. They have shitloads more money than they need, and it never gets spent on altruistic shit on their end, always ending up in administrative bloat whose main goal is to squeeze more and more profits out of hapless undergrads, including athletes of course. Why the fuck would I perpetuate that system? I went to UNH. I was there when this happened. Let me just say the student population was not happy when they learned this. Football isn't even UNH's big crowd-drawing sport, ice hockey is. The school also spent a large sum of money on a new jumbotron scoreboard in the hockey arena and everyone hated it because the old one worked just fine. They also bought a fancy table for one of the dining halls that had LED lights in it. The thing cost like $35,000. No one wanted it, no one asked for it, and now that they have it they don't even turn on the lights. It is also the most expensive state school in the country, I believe, so it's not like they are begging for funds. The only good thing I can say about UNH is the social life it provided. I made many great friends there and had the best time I could when not busy with school work. While I was a student there, the University of Houston received the largest ever single donation to a public university. They decided to spend most of it on a football team that wasn't even allowed to be on TV at the time. I remind the alumni fund of this every single time they track me down and try to get me to give them money. Tell them they can get their money from Andre Ware instead, since they thought he was so valuable back then. The school did the same for the track team. When I was on the team, a wealthy donor gave money to the program after his death to build an outdoor track. Somehow a majority of the money was spent on the stadium for the football team. And that's why they will never get another dollar from me. That's disgusting. That university should be ashamed. This is how you get a haunting. They need to be haunted. This is why you don't leave money to universities without attaching a few strings. Obviously the school was totally fucked in doing what it did with his donation, but couldn't he have specifically earmarked what he wanted the money spent on his will as a stipulation of his donation? Something like, I leave $4 million to the university to fund a new library. Now this is maximum damage. In my country, Romania, a senior man spent all his life savings to a hospital and it bought 10 chambers for premature born babies. The doctors engraved each one of them with his name. American education puts way too much emphasis on sports. What's even more messed up is those sports bring in huge money to universities but tuition costs are still crippling. Universities also produce the scientists that tell us how we're killing our environment and how to fix it. But they still tend to be some of the biggest polluters. We've got to have a better system than running schools like corporations. As someone who played college football, let me just say that this is sickening and the school should be ashamed. Deborah Dutton, Vice President for Advancement and President of the UNH Foundation, says, unrestricted gifts give the university the ability to use the funds for our highest priorities and emerging opportunities. $1 million toward a video scoreboard for the new football stadium. LOL. A guy in my hometown left a house to the city to be a community center in the neighborhood for everyone to use. They made it into a daycare and closed it to the general public. And their team sucks. I fucking despise how much funding sports get. Don't donate money to schools. They're basically hedge funds that also teach. Unless this guy specified how his donation was to be spent. School can do whatever they want. They'll blow some on bullshit sports stuff, because sports generate revenue, which corporations love. They'll also blow a bunch of it most likely on some sort of prestige professor or lecturer. Because star fucking energizes boring rich white people who are high-dollar donors. The school doesn't really care about this guy's life, or his generosity. They see dollars stored for interest earned, and dollars spent to make more dollars. If you're going to donate, make sure you donate only to funds used for scholarships. What a slap in the face. That librarian may as well have spent it getting lap dances and living well. Who knows what kind of sacrifices he made to be able to leave such a huge donation to the school. Typical American higher education institutional priorities: sports first, everything else a distant third. Everyone's properly up in arms over how disgusting this school's decision was, but I'm over here wondering how a librarian had $4 million to give. You want to get haunted? That's how you get haunted. I never understood why people regard USA as having the best universities in the world while at the same time blowing such crazy amounts of money and resources on something so academically inconsequential as team sports. You have to read the scoreboard. Hello. Dude should have spent it on cocaine and hookers for his last days. Go out with a bang. 1. Can't becomes a drug addict. 2. Good cause helping these hookers. Imagine being part of a generation where a librarian could amass millions of dollars in savings LMFAO. As a librarian, we were all really cranky about that. PSA: if you're donating money to a university, especially if you're donating big sums, you get to say where it goes. Even if you're not donating a lot, there are usually specific funds you can donate to with specific allocations. The unsettling part of all this is working your whole life then giving the money back to your employer. My mind can't reconcile this. I remember one year I was hanging out with one of the senators in our student government after a meeting for another group we were both in. He had just came from a budget meeting or some such, and we'd asked how things were going. Apparently somehow the budget had been set and the school still had a small but substantial amount, maybe 10,000 or whatever, unclaimed. Someone suggested it be used on something the entire student body could benefit from. One of the deans, or maybe she was a VP or some other big shot title, suggested using it for the football team, to get them new uniforms or practice gear or whatever. According to my friend, she couldn't fathom how that couldn't be something that the entire student body would benefit from. This happens every day. My mom deals with this with my siblings. They can't afford rent, but they can afford hundreds of dollars in alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes each month. After I pointed this out to her, she stopped giving us money. You don't pay for our rent, our broken down vehicles, our misfortunes, or shortcomings. No, you pay for us to live our life comfortably and spend our money all willy-nilly, while you spend yours responsibly and take care of us. We choose to buy the stupid shit and not pay our bills, so in reality you are paying for our alcohol, drugs, and family vacations, etc. Just this year, after tax refunds, my sister bought tickets to Disney World in Florida, hotels for a week, rented a vehicle to take 8 people down there, and not to mention has money for gas and food and souvenirs. All the while she had the nerve to tell my mom she didn't have money to fix her own car and needed help. Needless to say, my mom has finally opened her eyes. No more handouts.